What is the best and worst part with working with each other? I don't know if you guys like fought growing up or whatever.
Oh
Like
yeah, we fought a
rivalries.
ton.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the
A whole
best part
lot.
and the worst part about it?
As weird as it sounds, right? It's just like, get a therapist. Because because
Yeah.
the amount of self-awareness and humility and that you have to make a sibling partnership in business work,
Yeah.
like it's a lot.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being on the show. It's a pleasure to have you and an honor. So thanks for doing this.
Right on.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us,
absolutely.
Mike.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. I told you before we went live, I really try hard to only interview people that are interesting to me and I think will be interesting to my listeners. And you guys definitely fit the bill. You are incredibly cool. And I've went on and kind of binged a lot of your YouTube content. So I had a better sense of who you guys were. So we can have a great conversation. But if anybody hasn't checked that out, can you tell them real quick how they can find you on YouTube? We usually do this at the end, but I kind of want to do it now because I don't want to forget. And you guys have such an amazing channel. So how do they find that? Where do they go?
Yeah, it's youtube.com/C dash the Kwak Brothers, or you can just Google our last name, KWAK, the Kwak Brothers, and I mean, we're there. So
yeah, you'll be the first result because you guys are crushing it. All right. So let's dive into it a little bit. You wrote a book, number one, called 0 to 75 Units in 1 Year. I love that. I just recently wrote a book called Level Jumping, how I went from 0 to $1 million in 1 year in real estate investing. So kind of a different, but similar kind of a feel. So I dig that. But talk to me about the beginnings a little bit. Like you guys started with no money, no credit. And it sounds cliche because there's like these late night people that used to be on probably before you guys, Carlton Sheets or whatever, like no credit, no money, like anyone can do this. Tell me a little bit about your situation and what was the catalyst that made you go from where you were to wanting to build something and have something more?
Yeah, totally. So we started out, I mean, even our background when we first came to the United States, because we're immigrants to this country. I mean, we had very little to nothing, right? And we grew up, broke, poor, impoverished, like whatever adjective you want to come up with. So that was the kind of the situation. And that led us to being, 18, 19, 20 years old, being our late teens. And we were always entrepreneurial. I mean, my brother started a DJ company when he was 18. I was always selling Pokemon cards when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So both of us had that, I guess, entrepreneur gene in us,
Yeah.
I mean, some guys, they have the ability to jump out of the gym and do a 360 dunk, without even having ever stepped foot in the lifting gym ever in their life.
Right.
And we kind of had the same ability, we feel like, for entrepreneurship. So that's where we were. And almost with the whole concept of 0 to 75 units and, no money down, no credit, for us, I mean, we kind of had no option because we didn't have money. We didn't have great credit. So we had to find a way to figure out how to acquire, rental properties and, real estate portfolio in other ways that's almost non-traditional.
Yeah. So how old were you? If you said it, I missed it. I'm sorry. How old were you when you came to the States?
I was 5. And Sam, you were how old?
Yeah, I was 7 years old.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you came here, you went to school in the States, it sounded like. When you say you had no credit. You didn't have bad credit. You had no. Is that accurate when you started, or did you actually? Okay, yeah. I didn't think you had bad credit. You weren't old enough to have bad credit, really. So you had no credit. Which honestly, no credit sometimes is worse.
Right.
Having bad credit, right? So it's like, don't think that wasn't a thing. It definitely is a little worse. So the first question I have, and I'm always interested in this, when you guys started, approximately what year was it? What are we talking about?
2015.
Okay.
Is fishing when we started. Yeah.
Okay. So there's tons of stuff on HGTV and all these channels of flipping. What made you guys decide to go with, more of a passive real estate? When I say passive, I mean like cash flow, right? Like rentals, as opposed to flips or wholesaling or something else. Why did you go that direction?
Yeah. Oh, Go ahead, Sam. Yeah.
All right. So no, we've done the whole fix and flip route before. I mean, we've done a wholesale deal. We've done like it was like a buffet of like, hey, we want to try everything and anything that you real estate had to offer. So far, we've done the whole fix and flip. We've done a wholesale deal, 2 wholesale deals. We've done we've sold the property in notes. Yeah, and we've done that.
Yeah.
And of course, we've been very our lead foot has been rental, especially multifamily rental. So the whole idea of continuous stream of income, right? Because like, let's say I for some reason I'm hospitalized for several months, right? If I stop flipping, I lose my income.
Yeah.
But my rental's being managed by a team, and it, right, and they're collecting rent for me, and it gets deposited in a bank account. Money's always going to be flowing in. So it was no brainer to go all in on buying rentals. Multifamily is, and I know there's a lot of people like, well, I'm going to wholesale and fix and flip, and then I'm going to go and start buying multifamily. And I'm like, you know what, screw that. We're just going to go right to buying multifamily, and we figured it out. So yeah.
Good. So that leads into a couple questions that I have. First of all, I just want to say I love the attitude of, if I want to end up in multifamily, why should I go these different routes first? Like, I'm going to flip the wholesale. I love it when you say that I want to be in multifamily, I'm going to go straight for multifamily. Why would I screw around? I tell people that all the time. It's like, hey, I want to have a rental portfolio, but I think I need to start with wholesaling, and then I need to go to flipping. And it's like, why are you going all these weird directions? Just go straight toward what you want. So I love that. Yeah. So your book, let's just start there for a minute. 0 to 75 units. Are those with? I saw your trailer on YouTube, and I think, if I have this correct, your 75 units were multifamily units. It was like 8 units here, 30 units here, kind of a thing to get you to 75. Why not have 75 single family homes? Why multifamily?
Yeah, no, great question. So by the way, it's not actually 75. It's actually closer to like 83. But Sam was like, no, that's not marketable. So I was like, all right, fine.
I love that.
And between the two of us, he's definitely more of like the marketing natural, he's the marketing brain, right? He's the marketing genius behind.
Well, you know what though? Here's the thing though. You didn't say, hey, we really did 75 or we really did 65, but we're gonna say 75 because it's more marketable. That sounds like lying. When you say I did 83, but I'm only saying 75, that sounds like modesty, right? So I love it. It's great.
But at the end of the day, it's like, whether it's 75 or 83, it's like, it's still good. Yeah, I mean, it's still a great number. Right. But no, we chose multifamily because for one, obviously the economies of scale. I mean, if you're able to buy one property that has 8 streams of income in it, then it's almost the equivalent of buying 8 properties at the same time. For me personally, I don't know what Sam would say, but for me personally, I like the idea of the fact that when you analyze multifamily deals, you analyze it from a much more numerical and analytical perspective. When you're doing a single family house, you're collecting comps. You have to consider about the person living in there. Maybe it's Mr. and Mrs. Jones who's lived there for 35 years, and Johnny just went off to college, and they have a large emotional attachment to the house.
Yeah.
And so for us, right, I was like, well, if we do multifamily, it's going to be more business. It's going to be more business oriented. It's going to be more analytical. And for us, I mean, real estate is not the end all be all, I mean, even our portfolio, I'd say a good bulk of the assets and the value actually come from the businesses that we own, not actually the real estate. Okay. And I tell people all the time, it's like, learning how to invest and learn and underwrite multifamily property in commercial real estate. It's a lot like learning the piano before you learn any other instrument. You learn how to analyze an income stream. You learn how to assess the risks, the red flags, analyze the markets, understand present value versus future value. You learn all these different things. And sure, you can learn that in single family, but not really at the level you can learn it in commercial real estate. Mm-hmm. So for us, that appeal to learn commercial real estate and what that was going to teach us, really being in our early 20s at the time. And, hey, what are we doing today that's going to serve us knowledge-wise, 15, 20, 30 years from now? Yeah. I mean, for me, at least, it was a no-brainer,
Yeah. How much of your success early on, and by the way, I've heard, you did all this before you were like 24, 23. How old are you guys now? Give me a sense of, are you guys like 50 now? And this was something you did so long ago. How old are you guys now? What are you still mid 20s, like mid to late 20s?
Well, yeah. Well, this is my last year as being in the 20s. So okay. I will
live it up.
I will now transition to 30s by the end of the year, but
okay.
No, I'm still late 20s. I'm trying to I'm milking it all for all it's got, man.
How much of your early success, and this is maybe you've never considered this, or maybe it's a dumb question, but how much of your early success do you attribute to your age? Because most people look at it and go, oh wow, they were in their early 20s. That's amazing. That must have been so hard. But what was the upside of being in your early 20s or being so young? Was there an upside?
I don't think there is.
No, I think there is. Here's why I think there is, because like I think by the time you get to 50, and I don't know how old you are, Mike. So I'm not gonna make any judgment
How
here.
old do I look? How old do
I
I
don't
look?
know. I
Be
want to
honest.
say
17. There you go.
Come on, come on. How old do I look? I want to know.
I'll be honest.
40s?
I'll say 45. I'll say
Okay.
45.
late
What do you think,
40s, late 40s.
51.
Yeah, yeah,
51. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you look
Okay,
great,
there
man.
we go.
Rock and
So-
roll. Cool.
So here's the thing though, right? Because like when you hit 40s and 50s, you've seen so much of life that like you've been burned and you've been scarred to where like you have these natural guardrails that are built. Like, so as soon as you see risk, you're like, whoa, like I don't want to get involved in that, right? So, and plus, like, you know, when you're married and you have kids and you know you're dealing with a lot more responsibilities, you got to be accountable for those things. Aren't bad. I mean, I'm married, I have kids, but not bad things. But like when we first got started, I was 22, 23. 22. Zero responsibility. I didn't see enough of life to say, oh, that sounds dangerous, or oh, that sounds like, to me, everything was, wow, we got to do it. We got to try it. We got to go all out, right? Of course, we've made mistakes. We've gone through those, but I think not having that auto response of like, oh my gosh, like I can't be doing this, or this is too much work, I think really helped us. So when we had the drive, the energy and passion, we built all the systems and built everything. I think it was a major blessing.
Yeah, I would disagree probably, because I would respectfully disagree. Because at the end of the day, like I think even if you're 50 or 60, like you're still able to start and build a successful real estate investing career. At the end of the day, like the money doesn't care how old you are. What it does respond to is responds to action steps. You know, that's what it really at the end of the day responds to. Because I would even say, like, sure, you know, let's say you are 45 or 50 years old, or maybe even 60 years old, and you have kids and you have all these things you need to take care of, and you're only able to allocate, let's say, even 8 hours a week, whereas somebody who's 22 maybe would allocate, you know, closer to 30 hours a week. Right. Well, I would actually tell that 60-year-old, hey, you don't actually have as much of a disadvantage as you think. Because I remember when I first got married, I was worried. I was like, oh man, like is our real estate investing business going to go down? Am I not going to raise as much capital, or do as much deals? Because because now I have to like go home. I can't work 12, 14 hours anymore and just eat Chipotle every day. Like I can't do that. And we actually ended up doing better. And I actually ended up being more productive, because I was in a situation where, hey, I don't have all the time in the world. I really have to learn how to be efficient here. Yeah. I tell even our coaching clients and the students that we work with, look, I'd rather have you go 40 miles an hour in the right direction than have you go 120 miles per hour in the wrong direction. Right. Because going in the wrong direction, it hurts a lot of people. It hurts you, it wastes a lot of time. And ultimately, it's actually going to take you longer to get to your goals than if you were going 40 miles an hour in the right direction. Yeah. So at the end of the day, so for the people listening that are 67 years old, honestly, it's never too late to start.
No, I totally agree with that. But I hear you, Sam. I hear what you're saying. The one thing that I was wondering, and you did say it, is when you're young like that, sometimes you don't know that you should be a little cautious or a little afraid, or maybe somebody who's in their 40s, while I totally agree with you, I was in my late 30s when I started, mid to late 30s. You can totally do it. But sometimes when you have a lot to lose, you take different risks. And sometimes you're not willing to do something that you kind of should do because you're kind of afraid you're going to lose what you have. So I think there's pros to it. There's certainly cons. There's some drawbacks. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I wasn't doing real estate, but even in business, I just felt like people looked at me like I was a kid. And I felt like that was I always thought, man, in 20 years, like they won't act this way around me. They're going to look at me differently when I'm older because I'll look more like them. Right. So there's pros and cons both ways. So, okay. And I know you guys, like, this is a real estate show, but anyone who listens to my show regularly knows I go down rabbit holes when I'm interested of something, whether it has to do with real estate or not. And this does have to do with real estate in a way, but I'm wondering, you guys build up this multifamily, this passive income, and you have other interests and other things. Like you said, it's not the end all be all for you. Why did you start a YouTube channel, and how far into your real estate journey did you start it? And what was the reason, and who came up with the idea?
Yeah, honestly, it was a product of an accident. And I wouldn't say it was like 100% accident, but I think so one of the tendencies that I have is I just love sharing. I love for the lack of better term, showing off, right? So when I learn something, it's just in my nature to go share it, teach it, and assume authority. Like I think both Daniel and I were born with certain traits of leadership where like we want to go find our audience and lead them and help them and serve them.
Yeah.
So like this was back in 2013, I would say. I started actually, like a lot of people think, oh, Sam, you started your YouTube channel back in 2013, 2014. Really, like my passion for video really started in middle school. So like I remember buying our first webcam ever. I mean, this is like 2006 or 2007. And I thought like this whole concept of buying a webcam and like doing videos and stuff was really cool. And then I started getting into editing. And then high school, I was part of like the high school news club. And I was like the chief editor. Right. And I learned a lot of just video editing, shooting and all that. And then it was after I came back from the military and we started our DJing businesses, when we started putting things on video. And then when our interest for real estate started to develop around 2014 is when we started sharing content on YouTube. You know, things like, what books should you read? Like you could totally go back to our first YouTube video ever. It's like super embarrassing, but it's kind of funny in the same way. But it was kind of an accident because again, like we just love sharing. Like we just had to make videos about it. And then one video took off, and that was a video about how to pay off your mortgage in as early as 5 to 7 years. It just like all I remember, like, I got an email from YouTube saying, congratulations, you qualify for the partnership program. I'm like, what is that? And then they're like, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, you can get paid to put videos on YouTube. And then I remember getting $100 check from YouTube. I'm like, holy crap, like we need to keep doing more of this. So like that's when we got serious in 2015, started releasing videos. And then it wasn't really till like the last 2 years, I think we picked up steam, and then we're all in on YouTube now. But yeah, that's kind of the story on how we got started on YouTube, and like the epiphany that we had like in that journey.
Yeah, I was just, when I was looking at your channel before we hopped on here, before I met you guys, I saw that how to pay off your mortgage in 5 to 7 years, got 3.6 million views. That's amazing. Yeah. That's crazy. I guess really what I was wondering is, did you start the YouTube channel after you had some success in real estate and you were like, we're going to leverage this to find investors? Like it wasn't necessarily a strategic business move. It was more, you just like doing it and it was natural for you.
Yeah. And what's crazy is like, we haven't done any deals when we had our YouTube channel. It was just us going to workshops, seminars, training, courses, books, and just regurgitating it and documenting what we were learning. That's all it was, right? Like, hey, we just learned how to do owner financing today. Here's what it was. Here, we want to share it. But when we did that, is we started building authority, and we started building a voice, and people noticed, right? Yeah. And this is kind of a chicken or the egg situation, but having a YouTube channel and social media presence definitely helped us raise capital, which is something that Daniel can talk about more, helped us find more deals, helped us build more legitimacy behind what we do. Yeah. It was a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think without the YouTube channel, I definitely would not have been as successful as, we looking back, right? So they've been really critical to our business. Yeah.
So I do want to talk about raising capital, but let's just one more point on the YouTube thing, 'cause I'm just curious. Yeah. How much of your YouTube success, I get how you started. It was a passion. You loved video. You just wanted to share. I totally get that. How much of your YouTube now, or in the recent months or last year or so, has been a calculated, this is what people are searching for. We need to do 5 videos a week because the algorithm likes more. Like, how much do you think about the growth of your channel versus, hey, we're just going to talk about what we want to talk about. If whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, it's actually extremely intentional. So we've hired 2 different YouTube coaches. I mean, we spent tens of thousands of dollars, I think, on, just bettering our channel, whether it's investing into the channel. I mean, it's a lot. We have weekly meetings. We have a staff, so it's definitely extremely intentional. I mean, kudos to those people who, like, they just use an iPhone, right? And they shoot a video and they get millions of views. Like, that's fantastic. Like, definitely keep doing that, But for us, at least, like we have a certain approach that we take to business, and we take that same approach to YouTube. And it's not ultimately for money, right? It's not to get clicks, or it's not to get views. Sam and I, we're very different, and I think God engineered us that way, right? Because it's, that way we can complement one another. I'm the type of guy where it's just like, I'm not going to share anything unless I'm asked, right? And like, I'm not going to share anything unless I've done it and I've proven it, and I've, it's been years since. and I can actually speak from a place of experience as opposed to like knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. But at the same time, obviously, you know, the intentionality of having a channel and documenting the journey, that's obviously extremely rewarding, and that's the standard that we have for whether it's our channel or business or whatever it may be. It's just we try to do it at the highest level.
Yeah, I love that. I love it, and I'm glad. I'm really kind of glad that you said it's. You know, you guys have a very intentional approach to your channel at this point, because it's growing great. And I would hate to think that. Well, in a way, I'd be envious if you're like, I don't know, we just throw stuff up and everyone loves it and it keeps growing. But I get it. At some point, it becomes something you have to focus on. What is the best and worst part with working with each other? I don't know if you guys like fought growing up or whatever.
Oh
like,
yeah, we fought a ton.
Okay,
yeah.
So what's the
Hold
best
on.
part and the worst part about it?
Oh man, I'll let you go first, and I'll go on. I'll go second.
Yeah. So I mean, the best part is like, no matter what, like we're gonna be brothers, and it's kind of like, I hate using this analogy, but it's like a marriage that you can't like divorce, right? Like, you know, we're like stuck forever. So I think part of that like forced us to be better in our relationship. Cause like if we were completely strangers, we could have just said like in the middle of the relationship, we would just thrown our hand out and said like, screw it. Like you do your thing, I do my thing. Like, right. But I think like, we worked it out to where, I mean, there were a lot of conflicts and a lot of friction, but I think in that friction, we learned how to communicate. We learned how to let our guard down, be transparent, to be honest, to be vulnerable. I mean, so that I think helped us a lot. I mean, what does suck is that you have to be careful not to like have that business relationship bleed into a brother relationship, right? Because then like now you just lost what it means to be brothers, and now you're just business partners. So we kind of have to put two hats on sometimes, where like, hey, we're just having fun, we're brothers, but at the same time, like, we got to get serious and we got to get work done. So that's kind of the pros and cons I see.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd say it's a double-edged sword, you know, because like I've met people who are like, oh, like never get into business with your family, right? Like, and then I've met people who are like, oh yeah, like I've been partners with, you know, my mom or my dad or my brother for 35 years, right? Yeah. So it's definitely a double-edged sword, right? Like the pro is that, you know, obviously you guys complement one another, because a lot of times when you meet siblings, they're very different, right? In personality and how they think and what they're naturally good at, you know. And so I mean that's a pro, but at the same time, like that's also a con, right? Like not being, being being complementary, being on opposite sides of the spectrum. Because it's tough too, right? Because like even with business relationships, like there's a lot of personal things that could bleed into the personal, and then vice versa, right? Like, there's something that he did when I was 9 years old that like, that psychologically messed with me, and then, and that like bleeds into decisions, like, so I mean, I'd say it is what it is. I think the best advice that I would give to people that are like getting into business in terms of being siblings is, really, and as weird as it sounds, right? It's just like, get a therapist, because like, because the amount of self-awareness and humility and that you have to make a sibling partnership in business work, like it's a lot, right? Like it is a lot. Cause again, like as Sam said, if you're just business partners, you're not siblings, you're not, like it's very easy to kind of just go, all right, whatever, I'm not going to deal with that. But, obviously with Sam and I, it's just like, all right, well, I still have to see you Thanksgiving or like Sunday night at dinner or whatever, Exactly. Like your daughter is my niece, so it's like, I'd say there's pros and cons, but it's a double-edged sword. Sam and I certainly, we do our best.
I like that proactively get some therapy. I mean, honestly, everything you guys said, I was in business with my wife for the first handful of years I was doing this. She decided to back out. It was her personality is not really set for entrepreneurship. It just stressed her out too much. So it was good. It was a good break, and she was happy and I was happy. But when we were working together, a lot of the pros and cons are very similar. You have to be able to separate, your wife from your business partner, your brother from your business partner. And, she's going to be there at night when we have dinner. So if things aren't going well, I'm going to be in the same room with her regardless. So a lot of the same stuff. I think that's really smart. Everything you guys said was hit home with me for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the raising money. I know you guys have a bunch of businesses, and one of them is about raising capital. It's a business where you guys raise capital. Again, we've already kind of, and this is, you guys lean into this pretty good in your YouTube channel. You are young. So how were you guys / are you guys able to raise money? What's your strategy? How do you do that? Because in real estate, I'm sure you hear this all the time. You guys have students, you're in the industry. Two of the things that I hear every single day in my life from people in real estate are, I can't find any deals and there's no money. Like those are the universal challenges that people think they have. We both, all of three of us probably can agree, neither one of those are true, but those are the two that we hear. So how did you guys start raising money? And how do you go about that now? What do you tell people who say, I need to raise money, I don't have any money for deals?
Yeah, I would say probably the same approach into finding deals. Like I'm a big believer. It's like once you find that universal law of success that works for you in that business, like you apply that to every single little thing. So even with finding deals, I tell our clients all the time, it's like, look, like you don't look for properties, you look for people is what you do. You know, you just meet with the people and you build relationships with the people. You find the people that happen to have the property. And it's the same thing with raising capital. Like when you're raising capital, you're not actually raising capital. You're looking to build relationships with the people who have the capital. Is what you're doing. So for us, right, like we raised millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in our career. And we did it, I'm 27 now. So I had to do it, being in my early to mid 20s. And a lot of people will say it's a negative. I've found, for me, I guess this is like a toxic trait of mine, but I've just found ways to turn everything into a positive. Everything. Like I had an investor have a really honest conversation, and I have multiple of these conversations where it's like, hey, like, can I address something? Can I be direct with you? Like, I'm a little hesitant the fact that you're young, you're 24 years old, you're 23 years old, and you're 25 years old, whatever. And I tell people like, well, I get it, I understand, but one of the things I tell them is we've accomplished something that not even 40, 50, 60-year-olds can do. It takes them 20, 30 years, and we've done it in 3. So if that's the case, like, why wouldn't you want to, like, I don't know about you, but I want to invest with the entrepreneur who figures out how to do something in 3 years that it takes most people 30 years to do. Like for me, that's what I want, and I make a little joke too. Like I always find humor is a really good way to like ease tension, but I'll say like, look, the benefit is like, your money's safe with me the next 40, 50 years. Cause I'm not going anywhere. Right. Like I'm going to be around in 40, 50, 60 years. So your money, I'm going to do this for your kids, and so it eases the tension a little bit, but initially, like I thought it was an obstacle. I thought it was a hurdle, but I personally feel like the only power that hurdles and obstacles have is what you allow it to have, and that's the reality of entrepreneurship. Whether you're old or young, you're going to have hurdles either way. So,
you know what? People use excuses about, my age or where I grew up or my parents were divorced, whatever it is. But I always tell people, whatever your situation is, I can find you, I promise, someone who had a worse situation who succeeded in a big way. So, it's just excuses. But when you guys, okay, let's just dial back. You guys talk to new investors. When a new investor comes to you and says, I want to raise money, I get it from a high level. Treat it like you do finding houses, like theoretically that you're 100% right about that. But like, what do you tell them, like tactically? Like, I need to raise money. Do I go on Facebook? Do I start talking about my business? Do I just try to like bring people in that way? Do I go to meetups? Do I go to conferences? Is there a website I can go to where like people want to invest in real estate that I can put my deals on? Like tactically, what would be the first thing you would tell someone to do?
Yeah. And I'm sure Sam has his answer, but my answer, and I've tried this and seen this many, many, many times, I always tell them answer 3 questions, right? Number 1, what is your product? Like most people, at the end of the day, raising capital is sales. Like, let's just call it what it is, right? Like it's sales, but the product happens to be a combination of 3 things: your strategy and your blueprint on how you're going to navigate the investment market. And number 3, your asset. What is your deal that you're trying to get them to get involved with, right? So that's the 3 things that make up your product. And at the end of the day, you're trying to sell that product to that individual. I tell people all the time, like, I'm not a great sales guy. I consider myself to be a good salesperson. I'm not a great salesperson, but I'm really, really good at creating scenarios where people want to buy, and not necessarily, try to sell them and get them to say yes, right? Because I have no interest. I have no interest in, persuading somebody who wants a quick return on multifamily that has a 7-year lockup period. Like I have no interest in that. So 3 questions is: number 1, what is your product? Number 2, who is your ideal client? As in, who are the individuals that are going to resonate the most with that product? And number 3 is, how does that jive with what's happening in the marketplace right now? Because you can have the best product all you want, and you can have the best investors that align with your strategy to a T. But if it doesn't align with what's happening in the market, then you're kind of screwed, So I'd say answer those 3 questions. If you do that, things get a lot easier for you, because most people that I ask that ask me that question, like, Daniel, how do I raise capital? Well, number one, I say, look at what the focal point is of that question. It's I, right? But secondly, it's because, you don't even know what you're selling. Like you just, like, most people just say, oh, I just want capital. I just want people who have money. And you're an experienced guy. We're experienced guys. I could tell you, you don't want to take every investor. I want the right ones, you know?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I'll kind of share with how we got our first capital raise. Again, a lot of this stuff is kind of accidental, which is kind of crazy how, like, when you line the pieces up, it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
But like, I remember kind of around the same time when we started our YouTube channel, we started going around. Again, I just love sharing. I don't know what it is. Like, you tell me something, I'll share it. Like, just how it works. But
note to self: don't tell Sam secrets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you tell me, like, please don't tell anybody, right? Then I'll honor it. But
yeah,
like, right around the same time when we started our YouTube channel, even with my Facebook profile, I would go and just, I didn't care if I had the money or not. I just went and started looking at properties and started doing like property tours, doing walkthroughs, and just showing up, right? And I wanted to also, in my brain, I'm like, if I can get anywhere near closer to the goal, so just physically be there, right? I know I can make it manifest itself. So we keep going to all these properties, and I started taking photos of us doing these property tours and walkthroughs on the phone. Took the photos, and I would take a selfie, and I would just post it on Facebook, and I would say something like, "Hey guys, like, if Daniel and I are looking at this deal right now, and just by our analysis, we think we can make X amount of dollars." And pretty much that's what we shared, like, time and time again. And I think it was around like 3 to 4 months later when we consistently sharing our journey and documenting everything. We actually had a family friend who reached out and said, "Hey, Sam, I saw that you and Daniel are doing real estate. I have like a couple, I have tens of thousands of dollars sitting in my retirement. It's not doing anything right now. Do you guys have room for a partnership?" And I'm like, "Yes, we do." So our first capital raise was actually $60,000, which is exactly what we needed to do our first deal, which was for single family portfolio. And that gave us literally that like switch confidence to go, "Hey, let's go do that again." We figured out the formula, and that's really how we got started. So
I love that. I tell people all the time, when it comes to like trying, like raising money, whatever, the first time you do it, the clarity you get and it's just like, oh, this all sort of makes sense. It all comes together and it makes the second time a lot easier. I think that's an awesome story and a great illustration of exactly how to go about it. And I think that's what I did too, by the way. When I first started raising money, I just documented what I was doing. I went online and talked about it, and same kind of deal. I had a friend come to me and say, "Hey, can I fund your next deal? Looks like you guys are doing some cool stuff." And I was the same thing. I was like, "Yes, you can." So I love that, man. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the market a little bit, right? This has been a real subject for the last couple of years. And I've been following different people and like what people are saying about when it's going to crash, or are we in a bubble, and all these things, right? And there's so many people that have been so wrong over the last 2 years, like it's going to crash in 6 months, or it's never going to crash. Like, what do you guys, and I know we don't have crystal balls, right? So I'm not setting you up to be wrong in 6 months when somebody listens to this. However, what are you doing in your business, and how are you preparing for the current market and like maybe hedging against some eventualities down the road?
Yeah. Daniel?
So I say between I'll say this. This is a very bold statement, but 2022, I believe, is going to be the greatest year, the best opportunity to raise capital, because you have a record amount of people right now that are selling off their stock, they're selling off their cryptocurrency, they're selling off a lot of things, and they're moving towards real estate, right? Like, I mean, assets that hedge inflation. Yeah. So if you're a real estate investor, like 2022 is there, I don't think there's ever going to be a better year, in my lifetime to raise capital. I mean, you can go back as far as when the first caveman, borrowed a bunch of rocks from the other caveman to buy a spear, right? To hunt for the fish. Like there's never been a better time, So, I mean, in terms of what's happening in the market, I think a lot of people underestimate. So I look at a lot of deals, right? And I get asked by a lot of other individuals to help them underwrite a deal, right? Or an opportunity. At the end of the day, that's like one of my favorite skill sets. It's underwriting, opportunities and analyzing income streams and, reading the market and whatnot. So I'm seeing a lot of large syndicators and funds betting on the fact that rent is going to be higher 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, and then cap rates are going to be lower. So I even took a look at this deal where they predicted that the exit cap rate was actually going to be 100 basis points below what it is today. And I just had a hard time believing in that, a really, really hard time. Because I understand both sides, right? Like, and people are like, well, are you bullish or bearish on multifamily? And I have to say, I'm actually kind of bearish if you're looking at the next 12 to 18 months. Because I understand the case that, hey, interest rates are getting higher. We have a 50 basis point increase in the Fed fund rate, which hasn't happened in 20 years, right? Yada, yada. And, they believe that it's going to make home affordability much more severe. And then people are going to be forced to rent because of it. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that people are not taking into consideration is if you look at the ratio between wages and income comparison to rentals versus wages and incomes comparison to the average mortgage payment, the ratio of rents to income has significantly skyrocketed in comparison to the average mortgage to the average income. So yes, right, I get what people are saying there, but we're living in a time where rents are skyrocketing way, way, way faster than the average cost of a mortgage. Yeah. I mean, even my wife and I, our rent currently is $2,200. We got a letter saying they're raising it to $34. So you're talking about over a 50% increase in rent. Crap. And, I got a very close buddy of mine who we're in business together now, who, manages tens of thousands of doors. And he's like, yeah, that's happening kind of everywhere. Wow. And by the way, we live in the state of Illinois, where we actually have a minus 1.8% decrease in population, in net population, right? Yeah. So I mean, if that's what people are saying about Illinois, I can't imagine what states like Texas, Florida, Arizona are feeling, because I know for a fact that there's large amounts of shadow inventory in those states. And I believe that once inventory resets in the housing market, that's going to push a lot of the Class A tenants back into home ownership. I truly believe that. And I think a lot of these individuals who are putting tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars towards optimism in multifamily across the country, I think there's a lot of things that those people aren't considering. I mean, to have a cap rate prediction of 7 or 5 years after that's lower than what it is today, I mean, it's ludicrous. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous considering the Fed is looking to not only raise the rate, but also they're looking to pay off their balance sheet. I mean, that's, again, I'm just looking at the data and forming my own opinions here.
So let me just dumb this down to maybe one point. This isn't what you were necessarily focused on. I understood what you were saying, but for those of us who have personal homes, like the homes we live in that we own, do you think we can expect for values to drop as a result of this? Or with all the shadow inventory that you're talking about, should we expect home values to drop in general?
I don't think they're going to crash. I think at the end of the day, that's what most people are fearful of, right? Yeah. People are like, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my house? Right. Because I think most Americans, I mean, I don't think they care what the value of their home is as long as they can stay in it, which, I mean, the very few people who actually care about what their equity position is in a home, and very few people of that actually know how to utilize the equity that's in their home for financial expansion, So in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing in the numbers, and it's kind of already happening now, I think home values are going to decrease back to normalcy. And I think we're actually going to see the same thing in rents, because, again, it all comes down to wages and income. Have wages and income gone up to support the new financial growth? It has not. And you see it in the stock market, housing market, you see it in everywhere. A lot of growth has been on speculation and the amount of capital that's been pursuing it, not the actual production itself.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a great point. Very insightful, and I appreciate that. And hopefully, you guys understood what was going on there, because that's really good stuff. And nowadays, with the market the way it is, crazy hot, and I can't find deals, and I'm selling my rentals, I'm buying rentals. Like, I want to get into multifamily. I don't know if I should get into multifamily. That's really good advice, and it's really insightful. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Obviously, you do study that stuff, and you like it. I can tell. I know you guys have something that you want to give away to the audience, something free. You guys, in the spirit of just kind of being super giving and leading with value, let's talk about that for a second. What is it that you're giving away to the audience, and how can they take advantage of it?
Yeah, so we actually put together some core, and we've been working on this for, I mean, just little things here and there for 3 years. So this will be very practical, especially if you're just getting started out in the world of real estate. You know, you haven't done your deal yet, or maybe you have done one deal and you're looking to move on to the next one. We put together a free course. It's called Base Camp. So I'm kind of an outdoors guy. I was in the Army, and I like, you know, going out and shooting things I should be shooting. So I love going out there, and I love like hiking and that kind of stuff. It's like when I imagine going up to a mountain, right? You got to have a base camp, right? You got to have some kind of a foundation. So that's exactly why we decided to name it Base Camp. This is a great place for you to start, and then this will help you in your journey of quote unquote climbing the mountain, right? Nice. So it's free courses on owner financing, a little bit of raising capital, how to find deals. I mean, we throw a free book in there. There's a lot of free stuff in there. So to get there, it's courses.thekwakbrothers.com. It's courses with an S, plural, courses.thekwakbrothers.com. And it's completely free to sign up. And we're not going to ask you for anything. So
got it. Yeah. And we'll put that in the show notes, guys. So if you weren't able to write that down, you're on a treadmill, you're driving, whatever, we got you. Just go to the show notes and you can get that link and go and grab that. That's awesome. Very, very helpful and very valuable. So thanks for doing that, guys. I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Before we go, any last words, anything you want to leave people with, any parting thoughts on real estate, business, streams of income, any wisdom that you want to drop before we go?
I'll say one thing. So I was actually having a conversation with my buddy Brandon, and I won't say his last name because I don't want to come across as the guy who's name dropping or anything like that. But
I think I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, but he's probably one of the most well-known real estate investors and entrepreneurs in today. And him and I were actually having a conversation just about how to help people, right? And how do we help increase the success rate that people do deals and raise capital, and ultimately just build a better life for their families, right? Because it's a ripple effect. Yep. And him and I both kind of just came to the conclusion of just like what would we wish we would have known when we first started? And both of us said the same thing. And both of us wish we would have actually learned more about business organization stuff in the beginning than real estate. Because a lot of people who want to be a real estate investor, they learn how to raise capital, find deals, and underwrite. And those are fantastic things, right? Those are the fundamentals of real estate. But a lot of people forget that when you're in this game, you're not just doing deals, you're running a business is what you're doing. And the real estate happens to be the asset that the business owns. Yeah. But, even just stuff like accounting and finance, like I'm very lucky, right? That, my brother is very good at actually structuring and creating the framework for a business, like having the financial aspect, right? Like he's kind of like our CFO around here, right? It's like, if you want to write a check for anything, like you gotta kind of run it through him first, but so I've been very lucky with that by having him around, being good at stuff like that. But I think a lot of people just forget that when you're in real estate, you're also running a business too. So just reading a lot of business oriented books. I mean, even auditing a couple of accounting classes in your local university. I mean, that just goes a long way. There's so many benefits that not only is good for today, but also good for 3, 5, 6 years from now.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. You're right. People do, they start in this business in real estate, and what gets you to the first level of doing a few deals and making some money, eventually, if you're not good at running a business, you can either crash and burn, or maybe worse, you end up creating this thing that takes up all your time because you're not structured right. You're running around with chicken with your head cut off. You're not efficient, and it becomes kind of a mess, and you're really not always happier than you were with your 9 to 5. At least a 9 to 5, for the most part, you can mentally check out at 5 o'clock. If you're running a very disorganized business that has revenue and worse, investors that are expecting some sort of business mind, it can become very stressful. So I think you're 100% right. I think people being a little more educated on business in general would be very, very helpful in the beginning. So I love that. Guys, listen, it's been a true pleasure to talk to you. You guys are kind of a celebrity to me. You're very a big name out there and somebody that I was excited to talk to. So thanks for doing this. Thanks for being so transparent. Thank you for the free giveaway. Like I said, we'll have that link to make it easy for everybody. And guys, just keep crushing it. Keep rocking on and creating great content and doing great things and being helpful to people because you're good at it.
Yeah.
You got it,
Appreciate
Mike.
it.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.